Next up is our coordinator, Jack Towers.
I'd like to read something I discovered today, something I've never read before. And so I just read it once, and I kind of like this, and I hope you do as well. Snapdragon. She bade me to follow her to her garden, where the mellow sunlight stood as in a cup between the old gray walls. I did not dare to raise up my face. I did not dare to look up, lest her bright eyes like sparrows should fly in my windows of discovery and shrill, "Sin!" So with a downcast mien and laughing voice I followed the swing of her white dress that rocked a lilt along. I watched the poise of her feet as they flew for a space, then paused to press the grass deep down with the royal burden of her, and gladly I would have offered my breast to the tread of her. "I like to see," she said, and she crouched her down. She sunk into my sight like settling bird, and her bosom couched in the confines of her gown like heavy birds at rest there, softly stirred by her measured breaths. "I like to see," said she, "the snapdragon put out his tongue to me." She laughed. She reached her hand out to the flower, closing its crimson throat. My own throat, in her power, strangled. My heart welled up, so full, as if it would burst its wineskin in my throat, choke me in my own crimson. I watched her pull the gorge at the gaping flower till the blood did float over my eyes, and I was blind. Her large brown hand stretched over the windows of my mind, and there in the dark I did discover things I was out to find. My grail, a brown bowl twined with swollen veins that met in the wrist, under whose brown the amethyst I longed to taste. I longed to turn my heart's red measure in her cup. I longed to feel my hot blood burn with the amethyst in her cup. Then suddenly she looked up, and I was blind in a tawny gold day, till she took her eyes away. So she came down from above and emptied my heart of love. So I held my heart aloft to the cuckoo that hung like a dove, and she settled soft. It seemed that I in the morning world were pressed cup-shape to take this river bird who was weary to have furled her wings in us, and we were weary to receive her. This bird, this rich, sumptuous central grain, this mutable witch, this one refrain, this laugh in the fight, this clot of night, this field of delight. She spoke, and I closed my eyes to shut hallucinations out. I echoed with surprise, hearing my mere lips shout the answer they did devise. Again, I saw a brown bird hover over the flowers at my feet. I felt a brown bird hover over my heart, and sweet its shadow lay in my heart, and I thought I saw in the clover a brown bee pulling apart the closed flesh of the clover and burrowing in its heart. She moved her hand again. I felt the brown bird cover my heart, and then the bird came down on my heart, as on a nest the rover cuckoo comes, and shuts over the brim of each careful part of love, takes possession, and settles her down, with her wings and her feathers to drown in a nest in a heat of love. She turned her flushed face to me for the glint of a moment. "See," she laughed, "if you also can make them yawn." I put my hand to the dint in the flower's throat, and the flower gaped wide with woe. She watched. She went of a sudden intensely still. She watched my hand to see what would fulfill. I pressed the wretched thruple flower between my fingers till its head lay back, its fangs poised at her. Like a weapon, my hand was white and keen, and I held the choked flower serpent in its pangs of mordant anguish until she ceased to laugh, until her pride's flag smitten cleaved down to the staff. She hid her face. She murmured between her lips the low word, "Don't." I let the flower fall. I held my hand aloft toward the slips of blossom she fingered, and my fingers all put forth to her. She did not move, nor I, for my hand like a snake watched hers. It could not fly. Then I laughed in the dark of my heart. I did exult like a sudden chuckling of music. I bade her eyes meet mine. I opened her hopeless eyes to consult their fear, their shame, their joy that underlies defeat in such battle. But in the dark of her eyes my heart was fierce to make her laughter rise. Till dark drops shook with convulsive trills, and the dark of the spirit wavered like water thrilled with light. And my heart leaped up in longing to plunge its stark fervor within the pool of her twilight, within her spacious soul, to find delight. And I do not care, though the large hands of revenge shall get to my throat at last, get to it soon, if the joy that I lifted to avenge have risen red on my night as a harvest moon, which even death can only put out for me. And death, I know, is better than not to be. Thank you. From my D.H. Lawrence, and a very good line. Thank you, folks.